Hello, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Here's today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This looks at severe weather chances for the next 3 days, even the next 4, sometimes even 8 days. Let's take a look. Now, the Storm Prediction Center does a great job of issuing these forecasts, and I bulk them up a little bit by taking a look at some other data just so you understand what's going on. Here's a look at today, Sunday. So there is a 1 out of 5 on the threat risk chance for severe weather in central Missouri, right along I-70 pretty much, and north or south of that. It does include Kansas City, Jefferson City, Columbia, St. Louis, Quincy, over to Springfield, Illinois. And that is for later on tonight. Let me show you what I mean. So we look at this one AI model called StormNet, and it puts a high risk of some severe hail. Now, severe hail is not necessarily destructive, devastating hail like we've had in a couple of areas, including Springfield, Missouri, but it does mean 1 inch in diameter or greater, which can cause damage. So it puts kind of a bullseye there somewhere between Quincy, Hannibal area and St. Louis by 10, 11 o'clock tonight. And also another thing that I look at is Nadocast. There's a hail risk parameter with that too, even though the AI model that's running on this does have a tornado risk. It doesn't factor in this particular case, but there is a pretty significant hail risk here, 30% of 1 inch hail within 25 miles of a point. Again, right along I-70 tonight, and that hatched area means 10% chance of 2 inch or greater. So that would start getting into a category that would do a lot more damage. So just keep that on the lookout if you're in central Missouri, especially after dark tonight. There is a narrow window. Notice that the tornado risk is pretty much non-existent, maybe in South Florida, that's it. But it paints that hail risk in about the same area today. Right around this one in particular goes from, let's say, Columbia on over to just north of St. Louis. Now, let's turn the page, literally, to Monday here. And now this severe thunderstorm risk was bumped down a little bit here yesterday, and they have continued that idea here today. Now, let me tell you what this main risk is here for Monday. It is, again, a hail risk. The overall thunderstorm risk, though, is 1, so it's just kind of marginal in the widespread nature of the severe weather, but it is definitely there. That same model does put a higher hail risk Monday evening and into the overnight hours in northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and parts of western Missouri. So again, that would be from the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. time frame, Monday evening, overnight, into Tuesday morning. So keep that in mind. Now, this particular model keeps this much more south than almost everything else I'm going to show you, including the SPC's forecast I just put up. So if you look at the hail probability, see how it's a little bit more east-west stretch out. It doesn't quite get as far south as southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri. But just keep in mind that there are some indications that could happen. And I'm going to explain why here in just a second. First of all, actually, we'll just do it right as we talk about this 500 millibar flow. So this is kind of a west to east subtle flow. This area of concern is actually in between 2 main jet stream patterns. This one is where all the cold air is being sent down from, and it's not done yet this week. And then this is an interesting feature that will affect Arkansas down into the deep south later in the week. So we're kind of caught in this little middle area here where we have strong enough winds to support what are called supercells. Not widespread, but a few. And you're just looking for winds basically in the purple color. And there's enough error in this that I think that this qualifies, especially if you go upstate a little bit into Missouri and on over into Illinois. What I wanted to show you, now sometimes I show you CAPE, which is convective available potential energy. And really, it's just instability. It's one way to look at it. Now, when I put MU in front of it, this is an analysis that basically means most unstable CAPE. And this is useful because it helps to find elevated storms. Storms that are north of frontal boundaries, north of warm fronts in particular, tend to be good at hail, sometimes good at wind production, usually not real good at tornado production because the base of the thunderstorm is elevated. That's why we have to look at most unstable, not surface-based CAPE. So if that instability level is up high, then it still could be a pretty good thunderstorm. Tornadoes, probably not. There's no surface connection. Hail, yeah. So this is the most unstable Cape look, and this is, I think, late in the afternoon on Monday is when I grabbed this. So you can kind of see how, yes, central Missouri, eastern Kansas, but this is indicating a little bit of a bump down there into Oklahoma. So just keep that in mind. And then on Tuesday here, we have a level 2 out of 5, so we're upping the ante. This is what the Weather Service still calls a slight risk of severe storms. That goes from extreme southern Missouri down through northwest into central Arkansas, so it does include the Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville area, Little Rock, Jonesboro, Fort Smith certainly, almost down to Dallas, but not quite, and much of southeast Oklahoma as well. Now, on the tornado side of things, this AI model does put a little bit of a risk. This is from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Tuesday, so that's right up here. Right around Little Rock, Conway, Hot Springs, maybe a little bit to the east of there. That does shift a little bit with time. If I look at the next hour, closer to Memphis in the overnight hours. So just keep that in mind down there in Arkansas. I also wouldn't count out parts of northeast Texas for tornado risk either on Tuesday. CSU does put that tornado risk down there and puts the bullseye of 5% risk right there, right along the interstate. I think it's 57 between Little Rock and let's say Jonesboro, right in that area, with a hail and a wind risk to go with that. Now, Tuesday's jet stream shows that more energetic winds are coming into the picture. So that's why the ante has been upped on this, and the severe weather risk went from a level 1 to a 2. A little bit more widespread severe storm activity is implied when that happens on Tuesday here. And then if you look at the instability, this is just the normal Cape surface-based. So one issue is that this area here is not getting very unstable air, but the wind profiles look good for tornadoes. So if there's enough room for error here to get more unstable air flowing up into Arkansas Tuesday late in the afternoon, early evening, then we could have ourselves a little bit of a different situation here. As it is, that's why I mentioned northeast Kansas, eastern Kansas, or Texas, because the instability there in the shear is not as good. Up here in Arkansas, the low-level shear for tornadoes is better, but the instability doesn't appear to be showing up. Again, not yet. And again, this is Sunday morning, and we're talking about Tuesday afternoon, so there's some room to fudge this a little bit, obviously. And then this whole thing shifts southward on Wednesday with a 15% chance of any severe weather in this area from Texas up to Alabama, pretty much coinciding with what CSU is thinking. Here's what I just showed you. Here's what the probabilities are from that learning machine. And going back to tornado risk, this is Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., so an evening overnight possibility here that gets into the 25% range from southeast Mississippi right through down into Montgomery, Alabama, and those areas. And if I had looked at one more, it would shift this a little bit more this way into the overnight hours as well. Now, Thursday, we take a big break. We only have some severe weather possibilities, maybe in North Florida, southeast Georgia. Then we take another break till Saturday, and there's some vague signs of something showing up in the Great Plains again. And finally, we'll look at these NIU forecasts, May 3rd today through the 9th, next 7 days. It shows some frontal boundary activity and some hail production, as I've reviewed. And Texas is basically staying pretty active. Now, the trend has been and continues to be Texas, front range type activity, and Florida, which all implies that cooler high pressure areas are going to come down here and stabilize the air, and that the severe weather is kind of happening on the fringe, I guess you could say. And this is even amplified more the third week, 17th through the 23rd. South Texas still pretty active up to Oklahoma. Again, some hints that the front range of the Rockies and activity north of warm frontal boundaries may be the main focus for that period. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day one because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.